St. Louis Cardinals beat the Chicago Cubs on opening Sunday night. After a day off, the teams are back in action tonight. Just so you know, it is 2-0 in favor of the Chicago Cubs after 4 innings. Overreaction or not, the Cardinals will be able to give the Cubs a run for their money as NL Central champs.
Okay, you're a Cardinals fan.
I am.
I'm impartial. They lost by 17.5 games last year.
They did.
And it wasn't their best season in terms of pitching. Pitching's what's carried them over the years, but it certainly wasn't terrible. I've read a lot of columns for this one segment. And unfortunately, if you're a Cardinals fan, they're all written more about the Cubs. On articles that are how can the Cardinals win the NL, it's all circled around the Cubs. You can read a 9-paragraph column, and the first 7 are the Cubs. So the Cubs need to help here.
Yeah.
And I agree with all of the columnists. 17.5, and they're as good in a lot of aspects. We'll see how center field helps or hurts them with the absence for the Cubs and the addition of Dexter Fowler. And by the way, right now the Cubs are out of the playoffs. If it ended right now, the Bulls are in the playoffs, and the Cubs. I know that's what everybody's thinking. I really think I don't think this is an overreaction because I do think that the Cubs are going to win this by double digits again.
So you do think it's an overreaction?
I'm sorry, I do think it's an overreaction. I think it's too early in the season. We had a day off here. The only way it happens is if the starting pitching of the Cubs goes sour, and the starting pitching, thanks to Yadier Molina and health, the Cardinals get back into that zone of what we saw in most of the first 5 years of this decade.
Overreaction is probably too strong of a word for me.
Somewhere between.
But it is
no
90% likely, if health can be assumed for both teams, it is 90% likely that the Cubs win the division by probably 5 to 7 games. Now, I do think if you get into the postseason, then it's not an overreaction at all. I think the Cardinals, in a 7-game series, anything can happen. Sure. But over the course of 162...
The utilities, the depth, the offense, their top 3 pitchers.
It's all advantage Cubs.
Yeah.
So I would say that the Cubs likely going to win the division again. I do think the Cardinals are a playoff caliber team. Contending for a wild card.
Sure.
And then if they get in the postseason, anything happens. But to win the NL Central, the Cardinals will either have to wildly exceed expectation, or the Cubs will have to wildly underperform due to injury or some other unforeseen circumstance.
The Central maybe has 3 teams we think can reach the wild card, but it appears that each of the 3 divisions, sort of like last year, are 2-horse races on paper, and the most difficult mount would be the Cardinals.
Yes.
Where you could see almost head-to-head with the Dodgers and Giants. You can see the Mets and the Nationals going down to the last week. You feel as if the steepest climb is the Cardinals.
I do agree.